Find the 6 trig ratios of the following. And here we have a right triangle, right? We don't have, the xy plane with the unit circle, right? This is just some triangle, just randomly in space. So this is right triangle trig. Okay, so when this says to find the 6 trig ratios of a triangle, what we mean is that the cosine of theta, okay, is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse, right? It's not necessarily like x over r or something like that. Okay, so we have to make sure we separate or differentiate, between right triangle trig and unit circle trig. Okay, similarly, sine of theta is going to be the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Okay, and tangent of theta is going to be the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. Okay, of course, this is something you're going to have to remember. All right, so, here's the theta, right? So there's a theta in question. Okay, so we know that the cosine of theta is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. Okay, adjacent means next to, right? So this guy. But notice we don't know that value. Well, we can certainly find it using the Pythagorean Theorem. Right? In this case, based on the way that this triangle is labeled, we know that a squared plus b squared will equal c squared, right? So 1 squared plus b squared is equal to 5 squared. Of course, 5 squared is 25. We'll subtract the 1 over, so b squared equals 24. Which means b is the square root of 24, which is 2 radical 6, once we simplify that. So now we can answer this question, right? Cosine of theta is, in this case, b over c, or 2 radical 6 over 5. Right? Sine of theta is the opposite side, which is, in this case, a value, so 1 over 5. And the tangent would be opposite over adjacent, in this case, a over b, so we get 1 over 2 radical 6. If we properly rationalize that, we get radical 6 over 12. Okay, so this is right triangle trig. It's the same idea. We still need to know the values of a, b, and c, right? Or the x length, the y length, and the hypotenuse. Okay. Of course, now that we have these three, the remaining three should be straightforward. We just take the reciprocals of these guys. Okay, so the secant of theta would be 5 over 2 radical 6. Okay, if we properly rationalize, we get 5 radical 6 over 12. Cosecant theta, that's the easy one here, right? The reciprocal of 1 over 5 is just 5, or 5 over 1. And cotangent of theta, the reciprocal of this is 12 over radical 6. When we properly rationalize, we get 2 radical 6, and be simplified.